Today we are going to talk about 5 typical mistakes that people make when starting investing. And I would say that I have made most of those mistakes myself, so I've learned the lesson. But I avoided quite some mistakes also. And I just want to share it with you because, on this channel we talk a lot about freedom. And freedom meaning all levels, including financial. And when it comes to financial freedom, there are 2 things you have to watch for. First is you shouldn't go into debt. You should do everything to eliminate your debt if you already have, which many people actually have. So it's okay if you have, but you should be aware that you should not go even more into debt. You should get rid of the habit to always borrow things, from the bank or from somebody else. So those are like the basic things you have to learn if you are aspiring to become financially free, if you are aspiring to become free in general. So investments is a huge and important topic when it comes to this. And that's why I want to include this video into my channel, which is all about freedom. Consider subscribing if you haven't so far to make sure you get a valuable video every week. The first typical mistake of people who start investing is the lack of research. You probably heard it, do your own research. You and only you should be able to decide for yourself. Don't let other people make investments for you. You should know who you can trust, like what kind of institutions you can trust, if you want somebody else to decide for you, And in general, you should be able to understand how, how markets work in general. So for myself, I decided to take a course on basics of investments, and I'm very happy about it. I have learned a lot. It's really like the foundation. If you want to go into investments, just start with your own research, start with education on this topic. And watching this video is already something, it's already a good start, because I'm warning you from making mistakes, which many people make. Some of them I also made, this one I didn't really make, the mistake, because I went into the research, and I also was lucky to meet a person who was telling me about investments, but the sad thing is that it was a scam. So he invested into an organization that was a scam, and he lost a lot of money. But he was genuinely believing in this company, so he was telling me about this, and that's how I started with investments, actually kind of spontaneously, without so it came to my life just like that. I wish somebody would have told me this before. That's why I find this video so important, and make sure to stick around till the end of this video if this topic is new for you, or if you're already starting. This is something you really have to know all 5 mistakes. So, but because I was lucky, because I saw this example of somebody putting so much money into a scam. This was a scam, and he was so, he believed in this. So he also was telling about this to his friends, to his family. Imagine that his family members also believed him and also invested their money. So this is so crazy. And that's also one of the problems, that it can be that some relative or some friend of yours you trust comes to you and says, why don't you invest in this? And this is where your own research is so important, because even if you see the person you trust even you see this person 100% sure about the investment, it doesn't mean that this is not the scam. This lesson I've learned from the very beginning stage of my investing journey, so I'm sharing it gladly, because for me it was like, wow, this guy lost so much money, and he also, you know, made his relatives be engaged in this, which was, I mean, sorry for him, but this is what happens. And this happens a lot in our life. Yeah? There's a lot of scams going on, especially when it comes to investing. So if you don't know how markets work, you just believe some tips, some trends, or some advice from somebody you trust, maybe even a friend or somebody who looks like you can trust. Like, I would never tell you, give me your money, I'm going to invest them in something. Or I will not ever tell you, I advise you to invest in this and that in particular. I can talk about trends in general, I can talk about strategies, but everything else you have to do your own work, do your own research. The first one. Don't make this huge mistake that people make every day. The second mistake that I want to talk about in this video is emotional investing. And this is the majority of people, they do it, you know, they, you know, see the markets going up and they're like, wow, and they just invest when it's high, yeah. And then all the markets go down and they start selling, and they sell with a price less than they have bought, you know. And this is how people lose money, and this happens every day. This kind of emotional investing, and kind of like a lot of people do this. So if you, of course, it's a little bit difficult to understand where is the high, where is the low. But if you already bought it when it was high, so if the price goes down, don't sell it. In most of cases, you should look at this like a kind of like a game. And okay, when it's low, I buy. When it's high, I sell. Or I keep, you know. A long-term thinking is very good here. You don't have to always buy and sell. Yeah? It's best you buy when it's low, and if you want to sell, then when it's high. Okay, it's hard sometimes to understand, and very often it can be like this. I made these mistakes also, buying when it's high, but then you see, okay, now it's really low. Then you can buy more if it's a good asset. But don't sell low when it's obviously selling with a worst price, and you can think, oh, but this will never go up. If the asset is okay, it will go up eventually, even if it takes a few years. So you have to work with your emotions a lot when it comes to investing, and emotional investing is a big mistake. And yeah, this is like, in general, you have to work with your emotions if you want to be a free, successful person. You should be free. You should have distance to your emotions. Actually, one of the things it's good to remember is to never act under the influence of bad emotions like greed or fear. Like, you fear, so you sell, or you're greedy, so you buy, you know. So if you feel like you are influenced by those negative emotions, just don't do anything. Don't act under these emotional influences. This would be additional advice to investing advice, but it's very much related to this emotional investing. The next mistake that people make is the lack of diversification, because it's obviously that different assets, they go up and down in different periods of time, so you should invest in different sectors also, and never in one company, like the example I told you a guy putting all his money into a scam and inviting his relatives to do the same. Crazy. So never do this. And also diversification is making sure that you kind of like spread, you know, you don't. So start small in a way that you put a little bit here, put a little bit there, and then you see the dynamic over time, and then you also learn from it. Yeah? So diversification means you're not going to put a lot of money in one thing, but you're going to put small pieces into different places and see how it goes. Diversification is a huge thing. People make mistake, as I mentioned. I think I don't remember me making this mistake, actually. I kind of like keep it diverse. Also, when it comes to currency, it should be different currencies, you know, different sectors. So of course you cannot like invest into thousands of things, but make sure that it's kind of like, yeah, because assets go up and down, markets go up and down, and when you make this diversification, then you can be sure that also some assets are more risky, some less. So when you make such a diverse thing, that kind of like the whole portfolio is going up, you know, step by step, even if some things go down, but the other things go up. And because of the diversification, yeah, the whole portfolio is kind of safe. Unless there are some really huge things going on in the politics which influence the economy, like some kind of sanctions or some bank accounts are frozen. I have experience with this, so I know what I'm talking about. I lost some money also this way. You know, geopolitics is a difficult thing somehow. So if this is the reason of you losing money, this is very like, it's really not your fault, but only in case you diversify. Because in this case still, you know, it will influence some of your assets, but will not influence the other ones. You know, you will lose those frozen accounts, but you will still keep the other things. So make sure that the more you diversify, the better. Think about geopolitics as well, because it can really influence your experience. And believe me, I know what I'm talking about. I really lost some money, but I don't want to go into politics. This channel is free from politics, and life is like it is. So yeah, I just wanted to let you know that this is not some theory, you know, it's a practical experience of many people. The next mistake which people who just start very often ignore is like considering fees and costs, because different banks, you know, different organizations, different apps operate differently when it comes to fees, and in the long term, it can eat a lot of the returns. So make sure that you really watch out for how much you pay for those transactions. So, because you can then, if it's a lot, then you can maybe change to some other, you know, you can use a different strategy. Yeah? So